Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this Talkback Thursday conversation. My name is Christina Ganus, and I'm the Campus and Community Programs Manager here at the Gogue Center. I am honored to introduce our special guest today, Artistic Director, Dancer, Conductor, and legendary choreographer, Mark Morris. Welcome, Mark. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
We are thrilled to have the Mark Morris Dance Group here at the Gogue Center next week, performing The Look of Love, an evening of dance to the music of Burt Bacharach, which is a new work centered around the chart-topping songs of Burt Bacharach and lyricist Hal David. This evening-length work features original choreography by Mark Morris, new musical arrangements by Ethan Iverson, and costume design by Isaac Mizrahi. There will also be a live ensemble of piano, trumpet, bass, percussion, and singer, actress, and Broadway star Marcy Harriel on lead vocals. Mark, I would love to talk more about this work. We are so excited. What's something just off the top that we can expect to see?
Let's see. I don't want anyone to imagine what to expect. I can just tell you that you said most of it. It's not too long. It's about an hour and change.
Okay.
It's a baker's dozen of Mr. Bacharach's unbelievably great songs that people either know incredibly well or not well enough. Mm-hmm. And in either case, everyone's glad to hear them. There are also two wonderful backup singers, and the lighting design is Nicole Pierce. And we've only done it a few times. It was fresh. I mean, it still is. God knows we've just finished it. But we've performed it, I don't know, about 10 times by now since we started a little while ago, where we premiered in Santa Monica, California. I don't know. Let's see. It won't hurt you.
That's great.
Well, I imagine from what's happened so far that a lot of people will like it very much. Mm-hmm. And that's my desire, but I can't force anybody to think a thing. So, so far the shows have been wonderful. There are 10 dancers in it, and it usually starts with a few people sort of humming along till they get the message that maybe you should let the professionals do that. But that's a wonderful thing, that it makes people feel like, they're a big part of it. And that's what I like. That's what I feel like we need. So.
Absolutely. So I know that you've only done 10 performances so far, started in Santa Monica, and you just finished up the Kennedy Center. So your East Coast premiere, and audiences there seem to love it. I've been reading a lot of really rave reviews.
Yeah.
Has it been different, audiences on the West Coast versus East Coast, or everybody seems to feel the same?
Well, I don't see it that way. I mean, I just go night by night. Not only is every night different, every person is different, except the crazy people who see it every night, like me. But I don't know. It's for everybody, I think. But I also, you get to decide. It wouldn't hurt my feelings if you didn't like it very much, but don't leave, because it's not that long anyway. I'm very happy with it, and I don't know what else to say about that. It's not something you've seen before. That's always a good thing.
Yes. So let's talk about the project. How did it come about, and how did you decide to create a work based on the music of Burt Bacharach?
Well, first of all, I had to type my name in to get onto this connection. Yes. I would use a capital M normally, and my full name, which is Mark Morris. But just saying, I didn't know how I was doing this. Let's see. Well, here's the thing. I did think about this with Ethan Iverson, who years ago was my excellent music director, and he's now, he's gone past that and does, he's a very, very great and quite important and exquisitely good jazz pianist and arranger and composer. And so we got together to do a piece a few years ago, based on the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band of the Beatles from its 50th year anniversary. And so it's the first time he did a big arrangement of a full evening of music for me to choreograph. But before that, we had thought of doing a Burt Bacharach evening. It just seemed like a sort of an interesting idea and it ended up happening, I don't know, 15 years later or something like that. So it's always been on sort of a back burner. And I love the songs, and many people do, even if they don't know who wrote them, they will soon. And so we coming up with a new project to do sort of, I started it, I got really a lot of the work done, almost all of it during the heaviest period of COVID. So it was very, very difficult to coordinate. And so it was gradual and in incremental bits. But then I knew, of course, Isaac Mizrahi, who's a very close friend of mine. We've worked together a lot. Would do the costumes and lighting and dancers and all of this stuff. I have, I mean, I do that all the time. So we assembled this wonderful team and worked really hard and spottily because a lot of people were at home for a lot of this, and so it's been, everyone uses the word challenging. I would say like really hard. To do this. And so I'm fully relieved and particularly satisfied that the dancers are great and are being rewarded by their work every night, because it's, just to be in a theater and to travel again and to perform in front of live audiences is something we've terribly missed. There's a siren indicating that is true all the time.
Yes.
Anyway, can hold that if you want, but.
Great. So how did Burt Bacharach respond when you reached out about the Look of Love and what you were planning to do?
Well, I have to tell you, just to get as far as a response, just because, he's, super famous and great and, a real important American artist for decades. I will say we've had a couple of meetings that were, of course, by these means, a computer filter, but at least it's something. So that's been very, very lucky. Mr. Bacharach was not born yesterday. He's been around for a very long time. And we were so delighted to meet him. It was on a big mosaic of a bunch of people, and, just to get the rights and to get permission and to get his blessing is what I really wanted. Right. So Ethan and I and a whole bunch of other people, including Mr. Bacharach, met and, proposes. We'd submitted proposals. And the first thing he said was, hello. We said, hello, Mr. Bacharach. He says, call me Bird. And that's a good step right there. So yes. He was full of idea. He was eager, I think, because he let us do it, but just like not to make it boring and not to make it just a jukebox, a playlist, and, make it of, variations on what he does, a medley or using different vocalists and, collecting the things and sequencing them, the numbers. And that was fully approved. And in fact, he came to the dress rehearsal in Santa Monica because he lives in Southern California. So he came watch a dress rehearsal because it was, too crowded to have everybody else there. Right. And it was wonderful because I introduced him. He was in the audience. There's nobody in the audience except the technical parts of us. And so, he greeted everybody from the house, and Ethan talked to him for a long time, and so did I. And it was really, it was a real sort of kick of assurance and confidence. And I wanted that more than just about anything. Right. So that's a relief. Let me just tell you that. Yes. It was wonderful. And then, we opened later that day our big sort of gala and premiere at the Broad Stage in Santa Monica. And it was a wonderful occasion. And then we were exhausted and did 4 more shows. And then, we've been going since then. And, the Auburn is the last place we are this year with this show. We do other things and tour, but it comes back. We're going many places in the spring, another, dozen places. So it's for the future, and it seems to be working. So I hope that keeps up, because I'm very proud of it, frankly.
Yes, as you should be. We're very thrilled to have it here. So you founded the Mark Morris Dance Group.
Here they go again. Sorry.
Okay.
That question. Jesus Christ. Ay. Okay. It just happens. Okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. No worries. So you founded the Mark Morris Dance Group in 1980, and you've created over 150 works for the company. What does your creative process look like when you start to plan a new work?
Uh, it starts with music,
Mhm.
always.
Mhm.
So I choose music that I think I can live with for, well, years, months, if not years. So it has to be something that can hold itself together. I work only with live music. So it's
Mhm.
not just for this gig where we're bringing a band. That's always true, whether it's just piano, whether it's piano or orchestra and chorus, and all different scales of shows I've done in my many years of doing this. So that's already complicated. A bunch of dancers and a bunch of musicians and everything else.
Mhm.
So what I do is, in the case of this piece, which isn't really different from anything I've done, whether it's Bach or Handel or Debussy or the Beatles or country western music I do occasionally. But with this particular piece, of course, the songs are so well known, and so we looked at them very deeply, and they're almost all of them are sad or sad-ish, and
Mhm.
almost all of them have very, very interesting intervals and rhythms, and there's a lot of different influences because he's been around forever, and there's a lot of sort of bossa nova and sort of not general pop, but pop music, because he also defined pop music,
Right.
and of course very well known for his work with his great muse, who was Dionne Warwick. So we're not impersonating anybody. We're not doing anybody else's version of this. It's Ethan's and mine, and the people involved with it. So it's very beautiful. I was going to say accessible, but what does that mean
Right.
when you're watching a show? It just means you have a chance to like it. So of course I encourage that. But it's a real full on, it's a real big scale, full out, wonderful dance and music evening. And the part that was difficult, as I said earlier, was just, like everybody, the COVID part of it, which
Right.
is still ongoing, of course, and we're still very careful about traveling, and it's tricky, and we test all the time. So the only difference in what I normally do when I make up a dance is that it's just been really quite inconvenient, and it took a long time.
Right.
But I finished it really just in the very last possible second before we performed it. I didn't want to have to bring in the curtain before I was finished, but I was close to that. So that's another point of my great relief and appreciation that has been so successful so far.
That's wonderful. So for all of you just joining in, I am live with renowned choreographer and artistic director Mark Morris, the founder of the Mark Morris Dance Group, who will be performing The Look of Love, an evening of dance to the music of Burt Bacharach at the Goose Performing Arts Center next Tuesday, November 8th at 7:30 p.m. So I think we have a few minutes left, and I would love to know, did you have any surprises or discoveries as you worked on this project?
Well, let's see. Um, Actually, no. Can I just
Okay.
say no? I was
Yeah.
trying to come up with, let's see what else happened. I think I've given you all the clues on that one.
Sure.
Um, but also one thing is that we were also still fulfilling responsibilities of delivering performances of various pieces or programs to our promoters and sponsors and theaters and funders, etc. And so wonderfully, not everything was canceled over the last couple of years, but things were postponed, and that's how it got complicated, because like, oh, wait a minute, we haven't done that dance for a year, we'd better rehearse it. So that's been tricky to choreograph. Sorry, not to choreograph. That's been quite tricky because we are very happy to be performing, but we have to make up for the ones that we missed, and that ate into the time that I could work on this extremely new. It's so new, it's still wet, this piece. So that was all, and it didn't qualify as a setback. It was just sort of a replacement, and that was it was frustrating. But
Right.
we did all of those shows with delight, and everyone's dancing great, and the music sounds great. Every show we've done, but we're now specifically focused on this one for a while.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So I have to ask, what is your favorite Burt Bacharach song?
I'm tempted to say "What's New, Pussycat," only because we don't use that one.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know which one's in your head. "Walk On By."
Oh my gosh, we here at the Gogue Center have had "Do
Yeah.
You Know the Way to San Jose" stuck in our head for
Oh, okay.
going on 3 weeks. So, I know. I imagine it's stuck in yours as well.
It pretty much is. It
I
does
bet.
wake me up at night a little bit. But let's say catchy isn't the word. Like obsessive is the
Yeah.
word. And if you ask anybody touring with this show, they will have there's something going on at all times. There's an earworm in everybody's ear. So,
Bet.
oh, that's a very good one. That's also, I don't want to give it away, but it's toward the end of the piece.
Okay.
Do you know the way to San Jose? It's like, oh, okay, here we go. And then, yeah, it's great. Everyone bumps the other one out of your mind until you go home, and then there's suddenly this crazy and wonderful sort of melange of all of these tunes. And then you have to look them up, and then you are re-engaged in listening.
Yeah.
So that's a wonderful thing.
That is a wonderful thing. So my last question is, what's next for you? I know that this one's still new and fresh, but do you have plans for the next work?
Well, for the next new thing, I'm not quite certain, and there are a couple things I can't really say yet because they haven't been announced. But our next event is we're doing my Nutcracker, which is called the Hard Nut, and so we're putting, that's from, I don't know, many years ago, and we still do it quite frequently, and so we're preparing to perform that. That's a big job. It's a really big show, and we're preparing to do that in Detroit in December. So that's the next thing. And this is the last performance of this piece until next year. What we're doing, Chez Vous. So that's wonderful.
Wonderful. Well, that is all the time we have for today. Mark, thank you so much for joining us and being so generous with your time and sharing information about the Look of Love. We are so looking forward to having you and the dance company here at the Gogue Center next week.
Great. We're Alabama bound. We like
Alabama bound. That's right. So I'm closing out the interview today with a sneak peek and trailer of the Look of Love, an evening of dance to the music of Burt Bacharach. You can see the Mark Morris Dance Group at the Gogue Performing Arts Center on Tuesday, November 8th at 7:30 p.m. It is sure to be a wonderful performance. Please visit gougecenter.auburn.edu for tickets and more information. I would also like to thank our 2022-2023 season sponsors, Walt and Ginger Waltos. Thank you for joining us today, and tune in for another live episode of GPAC's Talkback Thursday series.
Great.
Do you know the way to San Jose? I've been away so long, I may go wrong and lose my way. Do you know the way to San Jose? I'm going back to find some